And we're live and late by 25 minutes. Started doing something and you just get into it and all of a sudden time flies and yes, and then the time goes by. So welcome back everybody. Tonight we're going to talk about if you saw the video that I just posted today, it is on timing. It's all about timing. They say timing is most important. So the timing, the test that the video that I put up today, the test that I had was running a comparison between 91 octane and E85 and running that on that GT500 supercharged 5.3 liter with a Brian Tooley Truck Norris cam in it. And it demonstrated the change in power that you get when you obviously have to run less timing, which is the normal thing going from E85. As we know, when you run 85, a lot of things going for it. It has higher octane, it has cooling properties, it makes power all by itself, even without changing the timing. So when you run E85, it is the miracle sauce. It also costs less, which is nice. So it's the miracle juice, and you put that in, and everything's happy, especially on a boosted motor, turbo motor, just loves it. But the problem is, and I've had people say this many, many times, hey, Richard, why are you always running your boosted stuff on E85? Why can't you run on 91 so that all of us 91 people can see, what's possible? Well, in this video, we went down from, we had E85 in it and then put 91 in it. And in order to do that, we had stock compression L33, the all aluminum 5.3 with that Brian Tooley Truck Norris cam. We had stock compression on that. The thing that's nice about running it on engine dyno that you don't get to do in the car all the time is whenever we make runs on stuff, it's always in, it's what I call a fully optimized like condition. We have if you've ever been in the dyno cell, the one at West Tech, I mean, there's like 100-mile-an-hour winds or whatever going in there when you're standing in there because of the evacuation fans that draw air in, air in and get the exhaust out because you always have to get the exhaust out of the dyno cell. So we have lots of airflow subsequently around the motor. So it does a number of things. It keeps everything fairly cool, much cooler than it would be normally in a closed, engine compartment. So that's kind of optimized. We have cool air, kind of a cold air source. So if whether you have it carbureted and you're drawing from the air on top or the side or wherever you're doing it on a fuel injected motor, you always have a good air supply. So you have ambient, good, nice, cold ambient air, whatever the ambient temperature is. You also have, it keeps heat away from things, header and turbo applications and those kinds of things. We have the other thing that many people have mentioned. We have an almost unlimited supply of cold water too, which is important. Now we keep the engine we have a thermostat on it, so we can keep the engine at whatever temperature we want to run test the motor at. But the nice thing is on an air to water intercooler, like we had on this combination with the little intercooler brick underneath between the supercharger and the intake manifold, we have an unlimited supply of cold water, which you always don't have when you're in the car. If you're driving around, you have some sort of fixed capacity for your intercooler system. And then you recirculate that, and then you have that go through some sort of heat exchanger to cool it off. When you're driving around and you're not in boost, the water temperature usually stays pretty nice. I know, having had a number of air to water intercooler combinations driving around, and it keeps it pretty reasonable if you're out of boost, if you're just cruising around. So you're not really heating the air up a lot. The only way that you're heating it up, really, you're heating up in a heated engine compartment just from a heat transfer from it being hot in there, not from the heated boost. So you're not heating the air up. And obviously when you have a fixed capacity, and then whatever the heat transfer capability is of your secondary heat, your heat exchanger, then so that's a little bit different on the way that we run it compared to what they do. Now we run a dyno pull, and it's 8 or 10 seconds or however long it is, depending on how long we're making the pull, but that doesn't really heat the water up too much on a single pull. Repeated stuff, you would get that some, but so that's another benefit we have on the engine dyno. But even with those differences, E85 by itself has the cooling properties, the extra octane, your ability to run more timing. That's really where the big difference is. So the E85, we always make more power when we run that. even just on force induction applications, even before we see the extra power that we get from, charge cooling, and also the added timing is also a big thing. You get a pretty good gain. Normally on a boosted application, just running E85 and not making any changes to the timing, it's not uncommon to get 20, 25, 30, 35 horsepower just from the E85 itself, going from, like we do that, going from race gas to E85 if we keep the timing the same. And so it does that all by itself. Then in the case of our test with 91 versus E85, you also have the ability to run a lot more timing. So in this case, doing the comparison 91 versus E85, running this thing on 91 octane, because I had a motor that I cared about. One, I also had a motor that had no extra ring gap because I hadn't put that in the L33 yet. We were able to, running on 91, we ran about 15 degrees of total timing at the top, at the horsepower peak and at the torque peak. The timing was as low, as 11 degrees on the load in and stuff. So, and I think maybe it could be even a little lower than that for the reasons that I mentioned about us having an optimized condition in the dyno cell that you don't always have in the vehicle. So we were running from 11 degrees to 15 degrees with 91 octane. With the E85, we're able to run 21.5 degrees. We probably could run more timing than that too. And then so we were starting higher and ending higher. So about 6 degrees difference in the peak timing. And as we normally see on these things, when we're running less timing, the difference in power is much more dramatic at the top of the RPM ranges than it is at the bottom, because relatively speaking, we're not changing it by as much, and as from a percentage standpoint. And so you run less timing down low anyway, because timing and RPM are related. So 6 degrees of timing, as we saw in the test, dropping the thing 6 degrees of timing and the change in power from the E85 itself, all of that stuff combined to net a difference in power of a little more than 100 horsepower, going from E85 down to 91, down to the timing that we have to run in 91. And we made a number of polls with that kind of timing, with the lower timing. The other thing that I didn't, and somebody mentioned this in one of the comments, that I didn't measure, that I would like to have, is I did not measure exhaust gas temperature. We didn't have an EGT probe on the headers that we ran. Oh, excuse me. And I wish I would have had that, because when you reduce the ignition timing, the total timing, you're definitely going to get a change in EGTs. And when we got it down to 15 degrees as opposed to 21, you're almost certainly going to have a higher exhaust gas temperature. That becomes problematic under a sustained load, rather not transient loads, and for short periods of time like we're doing on these tests. But if you were to run at wide open throttle for long periods of time, you would definitely see some fairly high EGTs with this lower timing level that's necessary for running 91. So for these kinds of situations, I don't know that I would go out and run the Silver State on 91 at a reduced timing level. While it's okay, I think, for making pulls like we did, or even running at the drag strip or whatever, that seems to work okay. But it's not a combination that I would recommend a guy go out and run at wide open throttle for 30 minutes for. Even if it would be safe enough at that timing level, you're going to have fairly high EGTs, and that can create its own problems with detonation over long term. So the question I posed today was, if we have 91, we have to run on 91. A lot of other places in the country have 93. Going from 91 to 93 is the stuff that we have in California. Even though it's 91, it's worse than 91. So the 93 that's available in other parts of the country is not just, can be maybe more than we would see normally from just 2 octane points. So 93 would definitely be better. You'd be able to run more timing. As you ran more timing, we would see changes in power. If you're able to run another degree or two of timing, whatever that actually equates to, going from 91 to 93, you would definitely see additional power, and it would be safer. The EGTs would definitely be would definitely be lower on 93 than they would on 91 octane if you were able to increase the static timing, the ignition timing. The other way to improve the situation is, and this was what I was getting at, if you look at the difference in power that we ran running 91 and E85, we saw a difference of, let's say, 100 horsepower. How could we bridge that gap? Well, one, obviously, you run 93 instead of 91, or any variation, 100, or you could do it with Octane Booster. If Octane Booster, some of these people swear by Boostane and these various kinds of Torco and stuff. I've not seen those things tested, like lab tested, the way that you test for Octane, where you actually test for detonation on single cylinder application. So I'd like to see that and see what it actually does, to see if it really goes from, like, if you put a can of that in 10 gallons or 20 gallons or whatever, it raises it by 3 or 5 or whatever, 8 octane points. If you can do that, and then you can run more timing, you definitely can improve the power situation. You won't get back running a higher octane fuel, whether it's 100 octane race gas or whether it's 91 plus some kind of octane booster. The extra octane will help you, just like running 93 or 100. You just won't get to where you would with E85, because E85 all by itself, even at the same timing, will make more power. But you could bridge the gap between those two. You don't have 100 horsepower difference between them. You would have less than that, whatever the timing would equate to. The other thing you could do is, and I'm curious to see what combination of this would work, is, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that you could change the static compression? Like, for instance, instead of the L33, if we have an LM7 and we have a lower static compression, and or if you remove the 706 heads, put 317 heads on it, or 799, 317s would be the lowest compression, and drop the static compression, could you then run a better combination of timing and or boost? When we ran the test on the video, I didn't change the boost. The pulley size didn't change. We had started out with 14.7 pounds. It dropped a little bit as we ran it down to 14.2, but that boost curve was consistent with the 91 and the E85. You could obviously adjust the boost levels to get some sort of combination of boost and timing. But if you lowered the static compression, could you achieve a better combination? And especially if you were very cognizant of the chamber design, the quench area, and soften the chamber, all of those things have the potential to bridge the gap to allow you to have more static timing or more ignition timing. Maybe that there's a possibility there. The other thing is camshaft. We could do a similar thing with that, because we would be affecting dynamic compression instead of the truck Norris cam, which is going to probably increase dynamic compression. It certainly adds enough low speed power and torque compared to other combinations. Could we run a different camshaft, i.e. an LS9 camshaft that's softer down low? Could we get past the detonation danger area at the torque peak and before the torque peak, where that might be more critical? Could we get past that and then have the gains up top where we're less sensitive to detonation? And so could some combination of camshaft actually help us achieve that? That's another possibility. The one that people brought up time and time again, and the obvious one, would be to have some sort of combination of 91 octane and or 93 if you're in other places in the country besides California. If you have 93 or 91 or 93, and then you add water meth injection. So the water meth injection, if you just have meth injection or you just have water or some combination thereof, that's obviously going to help you, because it's going to help. The more methanol that you put in there, the more cooling you're going to have, the more octane you're going to have. And also, even if you just have water and or water meth, you're going to be able to run more timing. You're going to have charge cooling. You're going to help reduce detonation actually in the combustion chamber. Even if you just have water, you should be able to run more timing. The more timing should add power. If you have methanol, you also have some cooling effect and octane, and the power offered just by methanol itself, like E85 does, I don't know what percentage of the methanol you'd have, but there is going to be a gain from that. Not from water meth itself. I don't usually see big gains from something just adding that injection unless we have something that is adjusting the timing while we're doing that. But the timing is giving you the power. The more methanol I think that you put in there, the more chance you have of gaining power from the combination itself, irrespective of the timing change. But the timing change that you could have from that, you would definitely have the potential to have more power. The thing that always concerns me about that sort of injection in water meth, or even if you're just using methanol, is that I'm concerned about distribution. In the testing that I've done, especially in a long runner, fast style LS6 truck intake manifold, any sort of long runner deal, it's less of a problem in this case because it's a blower application. If we inject it before the blower, we should have, in my opinion, better cylinder to cylinder distribution of a water meth system than we would on a long runner intake manifold blowing through it with either a turbo or a centrifugal blower. We should have better, more equal distribution with the water meth kit with a roots blower like we had. My concern then is going through the intercooler. Do we still have that going through the intercooler? Should we inject it post intercooler? Then do we have a distribution issue with the injection point after the intercooler? So all these are concerns when you're talking about this. You can't just willy-nilly blow it in there and just hope that it all finds its way evenly into all the cylinders. You're definitely going to lower the charge temperature. You're definitely going to affect the detonation threshold. You could definitely add more timing. My concern is that you do it evenly in all the cylinders, because it only takes one cylinder to not be getting what the other ones are doing, and for it to detonate, for it to ruin the motor, basically. Because if you have, if you break one ringland in one hole, the motor's not going to work. It's not going to work as well. It's definitely going to be hurt. So those would be the ways that I would think that you could help bridge the gap between just running E85 and, of course, methanol too. I didn't run just methanol, but E85 and methanol should and could be more than that. But the gap between E85 and 91, all the 91 guys are going, oh yeah, but now Richard showed us we have 100 less horsepower. What are we going to do? Well, all of those things that you could, get cold air to it, get water meth injection on it, pick the wrong camshaft, static compression. All of those things are things that you can consider to try to get back some of that power. If you don't have E85 around your neighborhood. In fact, I did an interesting thing today. When I'm down at West Tech, we have several gas stations. One of them is right around the corner where we just go get E85, and I get it for the testing that I do all the time. But today at my house in Northern California, I wanted to take a picture of the E85, button that's on the tank, on the pump, so that I could use it in the video, and I drove around and I couldn't find any. So I feel your pain. And that's why we do these 91 octane things, is because sometimes you just can't get it. And that's a perfect example. I tried to find it today. I wasn't going to use it for the test. I just needed a photo, and I still couldn't find it. So obviously it isn't everywhere. And that's why we do these things. And I will try to do more 91 stuff. But now that we've seen how much timing we have to take away, we have a fairly good idea of what's going on. What I have coming up in the next video is I found a way to lower the boost on this. Instead of running 15 pounds or 14.7 pounds, I got the boost down to 5 pounds for opening the bypass valve. And so that will be a good test, because there's a lot of interesting math going on, and there's a lot of cool data that go along with just opening the bypass valve. There's some pretty cool stuff. So that will be the next one that's coming up. So let's see what you guys got going on. An update. I will be giving away the Nova. I don't know if I'll be doing that live. If I don't do it live, I'll be doing a video on it so I can give that away to the winner. I'm also going to go up and see Todd and give him his Super Chats money, which turns out to be about $1,260. So he should be happy, and help him get his project and stuff going. So all of that stuff is going on. So let's see what you guys are going on. What do you guys got going on? Okay. We have 92 in Washington State. It's not quite racing fuel. It's probably not quite 92, but you can get 420. 425 gallons, for $20 should be 101 leaded. Less boost makes you sad. Yeah, that's. E85 doesn't leave black soot, so it's harder to find exhaust leaks. I found that's one thing that I see with 91, the 91 stuff that we have in California. Plug reading becomes somewhat of an issue. I remember Brian Tooley was out here way back, and we were running stuff on the 91 here. He goes, like, that thing is way too rich, because I took the plug out. I'm like, we're looking at the plug. He goes, that's way too fat. I'm like, it's 12.8. It's an NA motor. It's 12.8 to 1. Oh, no, it's too fat. I'm like, no, it's black. It looks terrible because of the 91 octane. It's not good. This looks much nicer on really good gas. If we run race gas on this, it would like that nice, like, light brown tint to it. But this stuff is not good. We have 110 and 95 at the pump in Clarksville. Nice. Can I use electronic boost controllers on the Roush like a boost leash? You could pulse width modulate if that's what they're doing. The bypass valve, probably. OEMs do that. I listened to Richard on 2 windows in stereo. Now it hurts in both ears. Nice. They do 2.4 pulleys for those. I think the one I have is a 2.75. So you can do a bigger crank pulley like an ATI damper, and then the small pulley. It doesn't need more pulley right now. What it needs is more camshaft. It needs more motor. I'd like to bring the boost down by making the motor more powerful. Hydrazine. If I run E85 plus 150 shot of nitrous, how much power should I get on a 5.3? You run E85, then you get all the power from the E85 on the supercharged combination. How about injecting E85 instead of water meth? Yeah, you could do that. It's not a very big percentage of what you're doing, so the gain that you get is not going to be nearly as much, but it will be cooling. What about short runner intake distribution for water meth nitrous shot? That probably would be better, just like the blower manifold. That's just a big common plenum with very short runner radius entries into it. I think that design, I think that even a single plane probably would be better than the long convoluted runner, especially a truck manifold, because it's got to go into a tube that exits out the side of the tube and then down into the plenum and then find its way into all the runners. And so that's a very torturous path for fuel. For gaseous nitrous, not so much. It's much better for that. But for any kind of liquid, it's just not a good situation. When you get your junkyard engines and need to get the rings, you use the rod bearings and rings. Yes, I reuse all of that stuff. What about just injecting the methanol and no water? Yeah, you could do that. Green flames out the zoomies. Richard, LQ4 with 9.8 to 1, E85, 78.75 at 2 bar. So or is it 2 bar of boost, like you're running 29 pounds, or are you running 14 pounds and it's 2 bar because you have 1 atmospheric? We'll have enough injector with 80 pound an hour sloppy stage 2 cam. No, you won't. Not with the 85. You won't. An 80 pound an hour. That's easily going to be. If that thing has a cam in it, an SS2 cam, yeah, that's going to be near 1,000 horsepower. You don't have enough injector there for E85. Ever test the Eddy twin throttle body intake? Yes, that video's up. Now, I haven't run it with boost, but it does the same thing. To get around the distribution problem of water methanol added nozzle on each intake. Yeah, we talked about that many times. That's one thing that we were talking about when I did the deal with the test with Engine Masters, is I wanted to run a port, an individual port water methanol injection. I think that would help with distribution. And if you could get the distribution even, then you could actually turn the timing up and safely get all the benefits from that. Two bar at the gauge. So 15 pounds with a 7875 on a cammed 6 liter should be near 1,000 horsepower with that turbo. Yeah, Todd sent me a picture of the turbo mounted on his LS2 today. Let's see. Richard, what part of Northern California are you in? I just pumped some 85 in Riverbank, in the Modesto area. No, I'm up by Sacramento. Do you try to get the rings back close to where they were, or you just stick them on there? Do you mean on the piston? I orient the rings the way that I want them when they go in. I think that they rotate and go into other positions. So I offset the gaps so that they're not, so they don't overlay each other. I offset them. If you want to test a mechanical pump for intercooling, the one from Jag XJ6 inline 6-cylinder is perfect for accessory mounting. Nice. We have the Dyno has a more than enough water flow. Where I do need a pump is when we run the Big Bang stuff, because then we need a second pump to pump the ice water because we have the really cold stuff. Yeah, nitrous says, yeah, nitrous for automotive use has sulfur dioxide. Yeah, you don't want to breathe that stuff. That's not. They still oxygenate the fuel in California? Yeah, they do that. 85 in Davis and West Street. And we might have it somewhere here too. The gas stations, I drove around to 5 or 6 of them and I didn't see any. Is it okay to run injectors at a near 100% for short periods of time? Yes. At full boost and high RPM, I'm reaching the limits of the injectors. We've run at 100%. I ran the Silver State with the injectors at 100% duty cycle at 100 PSI with an FMU, and it worked. I wouldn't recommend that, but I did it and it did work. Best cam for regular pickup, 33-inch tires, 410 gears, and then 4L80E. Do you want to get a converter? Still want a tow? Are you asking me if you should use the sloppy best cam, or are you asking me what a good cam is for that combination? Richard, if I drive to Sacramento, could you tune my 5.3? Ixnay, I'm not a tuner, so I don't do that. Trek North cam would need push rods need to be changed on a 4.8? You probably won't need a change in push rods on any LS, a 4.8, 5.3, 6.0. They're all going to be the same. The Trek North cam had very similar base circle to a stock camshaft. Ever try to angle mill heads? Yes, we've done that many times. Back in the day with the L98 stuff and the LT1 stuff, Rick from Pacific Performance used to angle mill that stuff a lot. And it's not uncommon for big block stuff. And Richard, I came in 5 minutes late again. Is the Nova out of here? Not yet. I haven't delivered it yet. I have you don't need a tow company. He's going to come pick it up. But thank you. Okay, do you know any good tuners in the area? I don't get involved in that much in this area. All the testing that I do is down at West Tech, and it's all on the engine dyno for me. What do you think about the electric wastegate from TurboSmart versus CO2? I hear the TurboSmart wastegate is slow. I've never seen any kind of comparison like that. So I'm not familiar with it. I've never tested it. I want to get with those guys and maybe try it, but what I'm doing on the engine dyno is not going to be a response rate of the turbo. And if you're drag racing where the response of the gate is critical, you know, you'd want to pick the fastest one. Richard, If it's not a daily driver, do you think you will make similar power if you add a small percentage of race fuel to pump gas compared to 85? You won't. As I said, if you have regular gas, if you have 91 or you have any kind of race gas, even if you add the timing back and the timing is the same as it is with the 85 on any sort of race gas or pump gas combination, you won't make the same power as the 85. And I showed that where we ran the E85 in the video, we ran the E85 at the same timing as the 91. And race gas will do exactly the same thing. If you're running it at a timing level where dictated by the octane, E85 adds power at the same timing level compared to any of those fuels. There are some race fuels that are oxygenated and will add a little bit of power, but nothing like E85 does. Like Q16 and some of those, some of the 100s were oxygenated and they would add a little bit of power. Q will add power, but not like E85 does. Richard, making progress on the blower, making intercooler piping now. Nice. How much does a stock 4.6 valve bottom end take? I don't know. I've never done a big bang on one. So we've run in the 700s, I think, with the stock bottom end. Shadow Ops, I'm thinking of a spare set of 862s and have them valved and ported unless I get a rec port. What Shadow Ops, what are you trying to do? What kind of power are you trying to make? Does anyone on the chat know of a good tuner in the Northern California area? Ever test the race gas additive? I have not. Todd says he knows a guy in West Sacramento that tunes. Did you do the pre-delivery inspection and do a prep on Nova yet? Yes, it's ready to go. Well, I still have to fill up the tire and then it's ready. It's getting a little low again. The rods usually give up in the 450 to 500 wheel horsepower zone. What, on a 4.62 valve? I don't think that's the case. You ever done an old school power episode? I'd love to see old school stuff. Like, what are you talking about? What's old school? I have videos up on lots of older engines. Oh, and I also got the Bostic brought me the stuff for the 396. So I have the heads are all done, the blocks done, crank, rods, pistons. So I just need to get a few other things. I just need to get a camshaft. Hopefully Comp has that in stock. I need a stock, solid, flat tappet, 375 horse, 396 camshaft. So if anybody else has one of those out there, if you have a stock, an original one, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll get a reproduction. Yes, doing the timing on a factory ECU where it's dependent on a lot of other variables is difficult. You you have to go and zero all that stuff out. I use Flowtech heads on 355. I ported them and got 250 CFM, 215 Marine Cam, and Edelbrock Performer. We made 420 horsepower. That's pretty good. 425 is pretty good for a 350. Here in Brazil, we have 91 with 20% ethanol, so most tuning are knock limited, I would imagine, yeah. Is it true that adding diesel fuel into gasoline will raise its octane? I don't think that that's the case. I think that it would make it more susceptible to detonation. We need to get you to run methanol and do a comparison for everyone since you like to lose mile per gallon in search of power. Methanol should require more fuel than E85, right, to make the same amount of power? Recommendations for an LS, is it LS9 to add power? I don't know what an LS99 is. All I want is 675 rear wheel horsepower. That's it. That's not hard. Short tuning, yes. Yeah, James is good. Don't bring Bostic on. Yeah, he's good. Diesel has a cetane rating. Yeah. I fell asleep to something else. Yes, I have a 396, an SS 396. Yeah, just don't add diesel to gasoline. No Big Bang 396. That's not going to happen. Plans for more 5 Magnum? Yeah, the 5.9 Magnum stuff is coming. I took that motor actually down to West Tech with me on my last trip. When you're looking for engines at West Tech, what yard do you go to? I go to LKQ, which is on Milliken, I think. I built dozens of 4.6s back in the day after they broke rods mid-beam at 450 to 500 wheel horsepower, usually with a Vortec S trim. I would think with a Vortec S trim, it would be less likely to do that. We've run, like I said, we've run lots of stuff that are in the 600 to 700 horsepower range, and maybe they're doing it, they're breaking them at the track or something. So when I put one of those together and it makes 1,000 horsepower on a stock bottom end, then we can have that discussion again, right? I think it means L99 6.2 liter. More specific, like old cast iron ported head instead of aluminum and other budget-minded parts that are easy to come by. So, Jess, if you, the best old school thing is to get an L31, get a Vortec headed small block, and then just put a carburetor and a camshaft and that kind of thing. That works good. I have lots of small block tests up where I ran the 882 heads, where I built the stuff with all the original Fuelie heads. So a lot of that stuff is up there. Yes, hit the like button. We're only at 50%. Oh, we need a poll too, right? We haven't had a poll yet. Okay. Okay, will E85 make more power than race gas on a supercharged LS? Ask. Boom. And our poll is up. And go hit the like button. Everybody, do the poll, hit the like button. I helped the guy that ran a sand drag rail with 396 and turbo 350 trans. It was the most reliable sand drag car I ever saw. Nice. 1972 Pontiac 352 barrel, net rated at 160 horsepower. Nice. What do you think it's putting out with a Extreme Energy 286, Performer 4-barrel intake, 600 Holly, cast manifold? The way that you would test it. Well, it's not going to be anywhere near 160 horsepower. A 352 barrel with stock exhaust manifolds probably would be, having run the small block Chevy like that, I think it was 229 horsepower. So starting out near there. And then when we got a 4-barrel and a camshaft on it, I think it would be more like, I don't know. It should be in the mid threes, I would think. I need to have that motor. I need to have that Pontiac 350. I'd like a 400 actually, but or a 389. But have you ever thought about testing reed valves in a tunnel ram just to reduce reversion? Why is it you want to reduce reversion in a tunnel ram? Hashtag reflected wave. Is water methanol distribution better on a dual plane intake manifold compared to a long runner Vortec intake manifold? I'm running it on an S480 turbo EFI 460. I don't know. I don't know. I've never tested distribution on a dual plane. I think it would be best on a single plane, be more problematic on a dual plane, but again, I can't swear to that. And does your dual plane have an open plenum like a spacer or something? I think a spacer might help distribution on a dual plane, but all of that is pure speculation on my part. E85 is 105. I think the rating is closer to 110, but it's rated differently, is what I was told by my fuel guys. LS3 with an LSA cam. An LSA. Oh, I'm thinking LS3 with an LSA blower. The cam is a 229, 242, because that's definitely not an LSA cam. 2.5 blower pulley. That's a small blower pulley. 120-pound injector. How much fuel pump do I need on E85? What kind of power do you think it'll make? You're going to need a couple 342 pumps probably for that. And an LS3 with a 229 cam. So let's say that's 540, let's say 550. I don't know what a 2.5 pulley is and an LSA blower on there. I don't know. I'm going to say 800. How do you know when to stop adding timing on a boosted engine running 93 octane before knocking begins? We know from experience about where to run it. In the car, your knock sensor could kind of tell you. But it's much better to leave a couple of degrees on the table and some power on the table than it is to leave pistons on the table. Can you build those jokers a proper LS motor for the vet cart over at Roadkill? I want to see whether the thing is truly capable of and what's real power. Yep. I'd like to see a two-stage Big Bang 462 valve, see how much it will take on the stock rods than on better rods. I would just do it on stock stuff. Have you seen what kind of horsepower the stock block 6.6 gas motor can take? Guys have already done 2,000 horsepower with the block, so we know that the block will do a lot. I've never seen anybody do something with stock internals on that. Whatever it is, I'm against it. And you fit right in with a lot of people that make comments. I've been running 91 pump and 25 to 50% mix of 100 on octane. Just switched to 91 pump only and notice the plugs are all black and sooty. That's right. That's what happens. It's funny. Yeah, that's and it's you think, oh, this thing is really too fat now. It's too rich. It's not really. Twin air motor 340 pumps for the LS3. Yep. Yeah, nitromethane and gasoline don't mix very well. Nitropropane to gasoline or nitromethane and alcohol-based stuff seems to mix better, right? Aaron, what did you say? The trailer's extra? Or I'm sure you said something else back here that I missed. Oh, I'll bring a spear. It's in the car, so you have to gather all the parts that you want to test, and I'll drive it there, take it out in the parking lot, and test whatever you want. I just want to run it on the engine dyno. I want to do some Pontiac stuff, and I've been trying to find one. Have you already tested Gen 4 rods and pistons on a Gen 3 crank? You mean, do they work? If your question is, do they work? Yes, they work. I haven't done the balance on them. The balance is off if you do that. You should have it rebalanced if you want to have it the same as it was. What did the Cadillac supercharger do on the 6-cylinder? It had belt slippage. Nitro is just fancy dry cleaning solvent. Yeah, Jeff, I wouldn't be a member of any club that would let me be a member. That's it. You say the magic word and the little duck comes down. I'll bring a 400 with a 69 Ram Air 3 heads on it. What I want is a stock Pontiac. Like the 2-barrel Pontiac would be awesome to start with something there and then put a 4-barrel on it, put a cam on it, heads, yada, yada, the way we do it. I left the building. I thought it was polite to knock when I rejoined. That's good. Any plans to get hold of a 7.3 Godzilla? I don't have one now, although Mahovitz said he had one I might be able to use for testing. 10% overdrive balancer for the Roush. Good or bad? Do you want to spin the blower faster? Then it will work. I'd like to do an engine swap on a 1980s 300ZX with a 350Z motor. How would I go about the information? You go on the internet and search that. I'm sure lots of people already done that. There's probably a channel or a group just dedicated to that. I'm sure guys have done that. My question is, what kind of compression can I get away with on this cam? I have a Brodix IK 180s, Lonati Voodoo roller rockers, with solo light pistons and speed pro hypertechnics. Please help. So what is your question? I don't know it. I didn't see what happened before that. I tried to scroll back, but I don't see it. So do you want to put as much camshaft in it as you can? Do you want to go with the maximum kind of thing? The available piston to valve clearance? What is it? What are you trying to do? Hello, gurus. Got a 2002 2500 HD with a 408 race truck trailer, hauls 20-foot boat. Have a high ram already. Want boost, turbo, or pro charger. Racing is dirt drags. Are you trying to build the engine for your race car or for your tow vehicle? The turbo would be better probably for either one of those. What do you think we'd do if it didn't slip? Cadillac supercharger on a 6-liter. I'm waiting for adapters to finish up the boat. It works fine. I'm sure that's an M122, and I'm sure that thing's going to support over 600 horsepower. The thing that I don't know about is I had a lot of people tell me that the intercoolers were maybe not up to the cooling, but we had lots of water flow in ours. Maybe you already tried this, but it would be interesting to compare a junkyard 6.2 Ford to a junkyard 6.2 or 6.0, both stock internals. I've never run a 6.2 Ford, so I haven't tried that. How long do you think it would take if we had all the parts I can fab to do what? Tom, will drinking 85 instead of coffee give me more energy to get more intercourse made a day? Yeah, just you have to get the one that says Monster on it, Monster 85. Aaron, what are you trying to fab up? Did I miss part of your other comment? It was hot today and the engine was a bit warmer. The external fuel pumps can be loud, and the internal ones obviously run a lot cooler. The truck is a race truck, and it still hauls the boat. Oh, okay, I see. Well, the Pro Charger is going to have a rising boost curve. The turbo will have more average power than a Pro Charger will. Charles, I kept getting different sizes for a turbo. I was told anywhere from an S480 with a 96 to a 96 to 102. What kind of what kind of power are you trying to make? Just tell me what kind of power you want to make. Well, I can tell you what turbo size you need. Have you ever thought about selling complete junkyard dyno tuned motors? No, I probably wouldn't do that. Not interested in that. Matt has tunes available for those kinds of things already, so anybody could go get factory tunes. He has a whole cabinet full of that stuff. It's all going on an airboat, so cooling should not be a problem. Pump recommended for 85 6-liter with a Cadillac supercharger. You're going to need enough pump, so something bigger than those 342s. I normally recommend 2 of those. Yeah, E85 in California is less than, it's a lot less than 91. It's less than 87. Turbo TPI. I know my blown 3800 E85 is amazing. That's what we're going to run on the Turbo E85 or on the Turbo 3800. Does ring gap care about the power curve or just high RPM power? Ring gap is not really RPM related. It's ring temperature related. So however you put temperature in the ring. Yeah, lots of folks use Matt's tunes. The cabinet tunes are good. He's shown time and time again that his no BS deal, you just plug that tune in with the injector and the turbo and the motor, and it does what it's supposed to do. I mean, it should. It's been tested and tested many, many times. So if it didn't do that, then it would be because of something that was on your end. He's already proven it's done it many, many times. To test the Pontiac engines, if you had all the parts you wanted to test on any given engine, how long do you think it would take to do the testing? I don't know. As long as everything went smoothly and we could just swap parts, it doesn't take very long to do that. Yeah, we've run rubber or the pool noodle foam, but we've run those, wrap the pumps around those and zip tied them or clamped them or whatever, and that seems to take some of the noise out of them. 525 Hellcat pump, yeah, that should be a good one. Where can we access Matt's tunes? He just do a search for sloppy tunes. It should tell you on there. I don't know, Tucker. I don't think a single Hellcat 525 is going to be enough on E85. My daily driver is an 02 Silverado with a stock 5.3 in it. You just made 700 with stock ring gap. Yeah, and that motor has, I think it has 100 pulls on it now. Do you think it would be worth adding turbulence to the intake charge with a device in the intake after the water meth ejection to try to ensure better distribution? I don't know how you would do that. I don't know what kind of thing you're going to put in there that's going to promote individual cylinder distribution. Motor dyno was 560. It went from 560 to 400 at the tire. Is it a automatic with big tires and a Ford 9-inch and stuff in it? Why did it drop so much power? Matt's tunes are on Slide Mechanics Wiki, at least that's where they used to be. Okay. Slide Mechanics tune cabinet is what to search. Thoughts on a stroker kit influence on bottom end lifespan for a PD blower application? Why do you think that a stroker kit is going to decrease the lifespan of the bottom end? Yeah, why are people not voting? Come on, everybody get out there vote. How is our poll doing here? Will E85 make more power than race gas on a supercharged LS? 64% saying yes and 35% saying no. Dan, the air pressure in the tires makes a big difference. I did that with a lot of those kit Cobras, and it was not unusual to pick up 25 at the tire. Yes, it did. Okay, 4L80E, 14 bolt full floater, 8 lug axles with heavy duty transfer case, 6,000 pound track. Okay, I thought that it seems like a lot of drivetrain loss. A later upload with pump 93 would be great. We won't be doing that. We don't have 93 here in California. I've heard that stroker plus boost is harder on blocks and main cabs. More cylinder pressure is harder on blocks and main caps. I have a tube chassis 2000 Ford Escort. Nice. Putting a twin turbo LS in it. Should be fun. That would be good. Charles, you don't know what you're looking at? I was told if you don't sleeve the block, the factory sleeves will allow the pistons to rock at bottom to center and wear the crap out of the piston skirts. It depends on how much stroke you do on and how long your sleeve is. On the LS stuff, I don't go more than a 4-inch stroke on those. Some guys will do 4/100s or 4/125s with the factory sleeve length, and that's definitely a problem. That's not a good idea. You can go less than 4-inch. They make smaller than or shorter than 4-inch stroker cranks for the LS. Do you need more displacement? PWM is pulse width modulated. Pump E85 isn't always 85%. I've tested it at less than 50% in the winter. It does vary. There's no absolute for pump stuff. I don't even test it. I just run it, but there's no the minimum is quite a bit less than the minimum by law is quite a bit less than 50 or quite a bit less than 85%. Is there a replacement for displacement? I think boost is pretty good. My truck beat 2 Dodge Demons this year at Roadkill. Nice. Are the aluminum 5.3s as limited on power potential as the LS1? No, they're not. There's no limit to what an aluminum 5.3 can make. There's guys doing 1,500 on those, like we did with the Big Bang stuff. The aluminum 5.3 is the exception. The L33 and the LC9 and those versions have much thicker sleeves than the rest of their aluminum brethren. E85 is 100 octane. I've seen 112 or higher race fuels. You could run more compression boost and timing with higher octane theory, but don't get the 85 charge going. Therefore, my vote was no. That's great. E85 doesn't test at 100 octane. It's higher than that, and also it makes more power than race gas. Everybody just needs boost if they want more power. It's true. Just add another pound or two. Our LSA has a 4-inch stroke with a 4085 bore. The LS2 block is good. It's lightweight and you can make power with it. You just can't go into the mega power. And quite honestly, guys that are doing 1500 in aluminum factory block or if you're out drag racing, you're probably living on borrowed time anyways. I don't know that's what I would do if I was consistently making 1500. We can do, big bang numbers on that and make lots of pulls on it. But I don't know in actual drag racing when you're loading it, launching it off the line and stuff, if how long that lasts. What kind of transmission will handle 1500 horsepower? Yeah, and 1300 foot-pounds. Probably your trans would last a lot longer if you were roll racing than if you were racing from the line. So we're going to turn off our chat now. 66% saying E85 will make more. Somebody had asked me about this, and I told them that if you run to this kind of power and boost and timing level, E85 will always make more than race gas will. You can't add enough timing on E85 or on race gas, on any kind of race gas, to make more power that E85 makes at this kind of level. Because on E85 at 15 pounds on this kind of motor, you can run all the timing. You can run timing until it stops making power. So and you have the gains from E85 that you won't have from race gas. So it's not even close. Once we get, like when we run the big bang stuff, I don't run E85 on it, and I don't know if I could have or not. Normally we run really high octane stuff just to make sure that we don't get detonation. And since we have 2000 horsepower with a turbo to play with, we have an endless amount of power. So that's on the big bang stuff. That's not the issue. We're not trying to make more power. We're just trying to see how much power those stock ones will take. And we have enough to find that limit. It's not hard. We just keep turning the boost up. And if somebody would have put the proper, map sensor in there. A well-built C4 will take 1,000 horsepower. You can get a bell housing to fit V8s. Tucker, I will admit that I was wrong. I had voted no. Well, ultimately, if you take it to its ultimate conclusion, like C16 or 118 or whatever, I would make more power with that than I would with the 85 because I just think you can run more boost and timing. What about E85 versus Q16? Run at the same timing level or at any timing level that we would run at on this kind of combination. Q16 won't make as much as E85 does. It makes a little bit more than other kinds of race fuel, but usually not very much, a small percentage. Are you able to test the cylinder temp difference between 91 and E85? Like actually in cylinder pressure or something that you're talking about? If that's the question, then no, I'm not able to. I have not run methanol. I would like to. I would actually like to test that. I need to run that on something. E85 does take a lot more fuel than pump gas does, so you have to have bigger injectors and bigger fuel pump, and it can be corrosive. Methanol even more so. Yeah. Yep, it's always the pole's fault. They have a higher. Yeah, we have a higher. I have a 5-bar map sensor now that somebody sent me. I also want to get a 4-bar because I like having the resolution. I like having better resolution when I'm going from, because if you have a 5-bar and you have a limited number of cells, then the jump from one cell to another is a bigger jump. Same story, E85 versus race gas NA. I don't think that I haven't seen big gains from E85 on NA motors. The two exceptions I will say is Coyotes seem to gain power from them, but I think that that's because the computer's adding timing, and also the LT stuff, the high compression stuff, seems to gain power from them. I've seen it where it gains power down low and then not at the top. I've seen it where it gains a little bit through the whole thing. I've seen it NA motors where it does nothing. It doesn't gain any power at all. No matter what we do to timing, it doesn't do anything. I've never seen a supercharged or turbocharged combination where E85 didn't gain power over whatever other kind of gas we had in it. Whether I don't normally test it versus 91, I almost always test it versus some kind of race gas. So the E85 is always better. How much time do you have to take out when adding nitrous and 100 octane unleaded race gas? Are you adding the race gas through the nitrous mix? I don't have a lot of experience with that. I would think that having, because that's a small percentage of the total fuel that you're using, which is ultimately going to determine the detonation threshold. But that's got to be better than just running pump gas through both of them, but not as good as running race gas through both of them. But if you're already at the level where it's okay to run it on pump gas through both of them, and you add the race gas through it, you just have more, you just have more of a hedge, and then maybe you can not take away the timing that you would take away. Uh, 240 psi cranking on E85 S480, 10 pounds of boost. Why do you have 240 psi of cranking pressure? What kind of combination do you have that has that? Is it really high static compression and no camshaft? John, water meth will definitely be helpful. It'll be better than just running 91 by itself. E85 just allows you to run more aggressive tune. It doesn't add power. So you haven't watched the video, I take it, or any of the many videos that I put up, because that's not accurate. Would E85 be usable on a mostly stock L98 with an upgraded pump and injector? No, not on a stock motor. I have a Whipple F-150 and run E30. Okay. And only have 91, so I mix with E85. Runs good. 226, 232, 112. Custom dome piston was built for an NA customer, wanted a turbo. So that's still a big enough camshaft. How big is the dome on that? Yeah, Grooves, I'm of the same opinion. I don't know why the cam that big should have 240 pounds of cranking pressure. That's one thing. The 85 does keep the plugs clean and the chambers too. It's nice. It does keep the ports and chambers minty fresh. The E85, in fact, is the only thing that's cleaning that junkyard motor that I have. I wish I could run it through the whole motor. You should see the oil changes. I've already changed the oil now. I think on the 5.3 liter, I've changed it 3 times, and every time I change the oil, as we're running it, the oil pressure comes up after I do the oil changes, and I know people are going to say, yeah, that's just temperature. No, at the same temperature. the oil has a lot of bad stuff in it, is what I'm saying. It has fuel in it, which you could smell from running all the 85, and it also has all the other contaminants that if I took the valve cover off and showed you what's under the valve cover, you'd like, oh yeah, it's grabbing all that stuff. It's bad. We have all these AUS 1400 injectors that we tested recently, and they're in great shape. Each one was working perfectly. Yeah, if your cats are clogged, that's not good. Yeah, the spark plugs do look new when you run E85 on them. And like I said, when you take the motor apart, the combustion chambers look really, really nice. They're that way with water meth injection too. If you run water meth injection, it will just steam clean everything that's in there. What's the main problem with running boost on flat top pistons? That there's not a problem with that. Clean as a whistle. Yes, fresh and clean. What oil brand do you prefer? So what do you guys think? Should I come out with my own line of oil? My own Super Richie Junkyard oil? You think would that be a big seller? Guaranteed for turbo applications, for junkyard turbo applications? I've run a motor on moonshine before. When that video's up. I run some transmission fluid. We run that through the Mazda rotaries, and it seems to fix the stuck apex seals. How long can the 85 sit in the tank? It is hydroscopic, so if your tank is open at all, it's not good. My first Scout would have 15 psi of oil pressure after an oil change using Kendall 70 weight. A week later, it'd have 5 psi. Neither one of those are good. The starting point is not good, and then the ending point is obviously definitely not good. Yeah, I get whatever's. I just get something that says oil on the container at the local auto parts store. Although this last time, I have to say, I stepped up to it was either a semi-synthetic or a full synthetic. Come out with something. So you want something like the what is everybody? I think Matt was recommending the Dello to everybody. A boost style dish piston. A flat top piston is the best design for flame travel. So if you can get that, most race motors would do that and then have a really small chamber. I have a half tank of 50-50 blend of pump 93 and 85 in my tank for a year. Is Rotel T6? They've reduced the zinc in most of those things by a lot. Even Rotella is like that. Even their high mileage, high drain stuff is the additive package is different now. So you have 11.6 to 1 6-liter, and you want boost now, and you're going to run the 85. You can do that. Maybe put a thicker head gasket on it. Oh yeah, the Rotel T6 is hard to find. So theoretically, if somebody had some of that. After what I saw Mobile One put up on the dyno, we accidentally cooked one to 450 degrees. That's really hot. I ran Mobile One in my Corvette when I was road racing, and we had the oil temperature above 300 degrees for a long time, and it worked fine. And I that stuff worked good. That's right, Dan. That's how you make water methanol. Super Tech, yeah, that's low buck stuff. E85 versus water injection versus meth injection for a streetcar. E85 makes a lot more power. You can do both. Have you ever done a spark plug test? We've tried a lot of different spark plugs at West Tech and have not seen one of them do something. Run the cheapest oil from Walmart. Yep. Can you run E85 and a meth kit? Yeah, you can. You usually don't need to have both of those. But it's good. Running E85 and an intercooler is good. I know, Dan. But this is in a street Corvette. 75 PSI cooling system pressure, that's a lot. When I was testing cup engines, they wouldn't let us make a pull until the oil temperature was 260 or better. Already have a water meth kit. Okay, yeah, that it's better than not having it, and just not as good as the 85. And if you combine the two, it's better. Is centrifugal a good bad match for long runner intakes due to lower RPM? The long runner intake, or a long runner intake, is designed to make power in a given RPM range, irrespective of whether it has a centrifugal blower on it or a turbo. It's really hard to put a positive displacement blower usually on a long runner intake, but a centrifugal works with a long runner intake. It also works with a short runner intake. A centrifugal will do the same thing on both of those. The intake will determine what the extra power is. So a long runner intake will work well with that. Richard, at this point, what do you want to learn more about? Money. And I'd like to learn more about YouTube and Instagram and social media. And I have a lot of stuff to learn. Yeah, you don't want to be running 15-to-1 air fuel on 15 pounds of boost. It's not good. Rusting softly, all of that stuff would have good charge cooling. And you did forget the liquid nitrogen. One more minute. M, I thought a couple of guys told you about tuners in their area. Richard, what would you say is the power limit for a stock truck intake? There isn't one. Are you running boost through it? Yep, all kinds of feedback. That's what we're here for. Nothing but feedback. Okay, so I'm going to get the last question in there. Oh, he didn't respond for the email? Okay. Okay, guys, I got to get going. So no, I'm not going to answer another question. That's it. I'm done. Ixnay. Thank you guys all for showing up. Hope you guys have all gone and checked out the video on tuning, super tuning. Look, make all the cells the same. It's really easy, super tuning. And that's how simple it is. I will see you guys all tomorrow night. And boom, and we're